You all might remember the UNRWA. It's been under a lot of scrutiny recently, with essentially the IDF saying that they have members of Hamas within their workforce. And for those of you unfamiliar with the UNRWA, they do a lot of aid work within Gaza. They do a lot of really kind of important work to keep the day-to-day machinery and life of Palestinians in Gaza running. And they put out a new report today, basically making some pretty bombshell claims about Israel and the IDF. Specifically, the IDF was saying that its employees were working for Hamas. Those initial claims were narrowed down to from 15 or 20 down to 10, 9, 8, 7. And now the UNRWA has an interesting thing to say here about those links to Hamas. Namely, that they aren't real, and were in fact created under torture. So, yeah, UNRWA report says Israel coerced some agency employees to falsely admit Hamas links. This is from the Times of Israel to just today. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees says some employees released into Gaza from Israeli detention reported having been pressured by Israeli authorities into falsely stating that the agency has Hamas links and that staff took part in the October 7th attacks. UNRWA fired 12 staffers earlier this year following allegations from Israel that they actively participated in Hamas's terror onslaught. The assertions are contained in a report by UNRWA reviewed by Reuters and dated February 2024, which detailed allegations of mistreatment in Israeli detention made by unidentified Palestinians, including several working for UNRWA. And now I need to pause here to clarify that when the UNRWA is talking about the mistreatment of Palestinians that have been detained by the IDF, I need you all to understand that, one, the IDF absolutely tortures people, and two, they are not protected under Israeli civilian law. They're under Israeli military law, which allows for indefinite detention. So when the IDF takes a Palestinian into custody, they can hold them without charge indefinitely. Indefinitely. UNRWA Communications Director Juliet Tuwuma says the agency planned to hand the information in the 11-page unpublished report to agencies inside and outside the UN specialized in documenting potential human rights abuses, which again is not something you do if there was simply some, miscommunication that led to some mistreatment. That this is not small-scale mistreatment if they're planning to forward it to other internal agencies within the UN for human rights abuses. They were torturing these Palestinians to get essentially confessions out of them. The document, okay. When the war comes to an end, there needs to be a series of inquiries to look into all violations of human rights. The document says several UNRWA Palestinian staffers had been detained by the Israeli army, and added that the ill treatment and abuse they said they experienced included severe physical beatings, waterboarding, and threats of harm to family members. So just to be clear, we're really burying the lead here on this story. They were beaten, and keep in mind, they were detained for an indefinite period of time, being beaten, being repeatedly drowned, which is what waterboarding is. They repeatedly drown you. They for those of you who are unfamiliar, they hold your head underwater until your body starts having a drowning response. They pull you out, allow you to get just enough air to continue not dying, and then they put you underwater again to initiate a drowning response. Repeatedly. And then they were also threatening to harm and possibly kill their families. Under this treatment, these Palestinian workers for the UNRWA admitted to whatever they were asked, because when you're in a situation like that, you will tell someone anything they want to hear. You will tell them that you killed your own family, even if it's not true. Agency staff members have been subject to threats and coercion by the Israeli authorities while in detention and pressured to make false statements against the agency, including that the agency has affiliations with Hamas and that UNRWA staff members took part in the 7th of October 2023 atrocities, the report says. The UNRWA declined a Reuters request to see transcripts of its interviews containing allegations of coerced false confessions. In addition to the alleged abuse endured by UNRWA staff members, Palestinian detainees more broadly described allegations of abuse, including beatings, humiliation, threats, dog attacks, sexual violence, and deaths of detainees denied medical treatment. So basically, if you are taken into custody by the IDF, and we know that there is rampant sexual abuse, they will put dogs on you, they will rape you, they will try and kill you, they will deny you medical care in an effort to further torture you, they will threaten to kill your family. They will, honestly, the best case scenario, they beat you. They'll strip you naked and mock you. They will desecrate your living body. Because there are no limits on what they can do to you under their military law. This is awful. And part of what we need to recognize in this abuse is the fact that those confessions were then used to justify the world defunding the UNRWA to the point where it was not going to be able to function much into the month of March. Like, Norway restoring funding allowed them to continue functioning for like another few weeks. But hopefully this moves the needle and restores some of their funding, because they need the funding to continue operating. And on top of that, frankly, like, this is monstrous. It is a continuation of Israel's plan to dismantle the UNRWA. This has been a long-time goal of the Israeli, body politique. Likud has wanted it for a very long time. And thankfully, by the way, Canada is resuming funding for the UNRWA. And that was just announced a handful of hours ago. So it is, yeah. And by the way, this isn't just like me saying, oh, like that Israel wants to get rid of the UNRWA. No, this is this is, again, according to the UNRWA, Israel's conducting a campaign to eliminate Palestinian aid agency. Here is another claim here. Short-sighted calls for closure. Because basically, Israel is continuously calling for them to be closed. This is a constant threat hanging above their head. Yeah, fight and win. First of all, thanks for following today. And second of all, Yeah, like, Canada's political situation is terrible, and Justin Trudeau is also terrible, but man, at the very least, they're doing bare minimum, and so many places, including the United States, are currently not. It is so desperately important that we continue to fund these things. Frankly, I'm really glad that Joe Biden has ordered like a port to be built that will allow emergency supplies to be shipped into Gaza, because Israel's just not doing it. They're not doing it. They've been pressured. They've been they're just not going to do it, and they're blocking the aid coming in from Egypt as well, with settler protests. Like, it is monstrous what is happening there. And frankly, I feel like the only path forward is continuing to vote uncommitted in the primaries and continue to make life as miserable for Joe Biden as possible. Every time he makes an appearance, every time Jill Biden makes an appearance, people should be shouting that place down. Shout down the president of the United States until we get a ceasefire. Yeah, by the way, this is Israel 4 days ago. UNRWA must be defunded and dismantled. Things are bad. Oh yeah, no. Fight and win. That would be the best solution of all. But also, like, more routes need to be made, and frankly, I'm not opposed to there being a more permanent port in the Gaza Strip, which has, up until this point, basically been denied to them by Israel. So kind of the construction of this port marks a pretty big deal for the Gaza Strip in general, especially considering it's effectively under American protection. But I agree. By far the best option would be to ceasefire immediately, open all corridors for aid. I just don't know. I don't know that Biden's there yet, you know? Apparently, he got caught on a hot mic after the State of the Union, talking about how he and Benjamin Netanyahu will have to have a come to Jesus talk. Or maybe this wasn't... Oh yeah, no, it was after the State of the Union. Here we go. Just throw this up here. Comments on hot mic after State of the Union address point to U.S. president's growing frustration with the Israeli leader. I mean, I know that's like nothing. You know, I know that that's like a slim sliver of hope, but like, God, I really want him to do something. God, I really want him to do something. You know, we need to like cut off aid. Formally, like, issue a diplomatic declaration. Do anything that will directly, like, check their advances. My God. Would the U.S. response even be to the IDF hitting a port? I gotta be honest with you. I have no idea. I genuinely have no idea, outside of like there would be like an irrevocable breaking of our diplomatic bonds, I guess. Oh yeah, no, spicy diarrhea. That's the thing. That's the thing that is so frustrating about this entire situation. The United States could use all of the leverage at our disposal to prevent the genocide that is currently unfolding. And I don't, like, frankly, the calculation that I feel like is being made, or has been made up until this point, is essentially that voters will forget, And Joe Biden wants to prioritize Israel as a military base to check Iranian expansionism and like their building up of a sphere of influence, right? But like, I think he's very, very much committed to that ideologically, which is rare because Joe Biden is rarely ideologically committed to anything. But I think he is now realizing that it's going to be a much longer term problem. And that, like, that, I mean, frankly, the fact that he brought it up during his State of the Union address and, like, that it was a material thing that he ordered done, I think that does speak to the fact that pressure is working in getting to him. It's just not working getting him to do a ceasefire yet, you know? Yeah, and Gila Monster, that's the other thing. It puts like a definite diplomatic presence on the ground in Gaza that basically creates some kind of diplomatic shield, for lack of a better term, that will dissuade military action in and around the port area and will hopefully, lead to international workers distributing aid, which will hopefully dissuade more military action against Palestinians. And, a lot of this is hope. Hopefully. A lot of this is hope, but like, hope for the best and keep fighting like hell until you win, The hardest part about this is like, what can I advocate for people to do tangibly? And like, honestly, it's be as inconvenient as possible. Rag on the people in Congress who are, ineffectual, weak-spined liberals, The people who need to be brought over to our position. Get on their case. Make every day a situation where they have to consciously think about Israel and Palestine and move towards Palestine. Bully Biden, bully Nancy Pelosi, bully these liberal ghouls until we win. Honestly, like, half of organizing is just organized bullying of political officials that have been elected into office. Yeah, troll tweets on social media. Be like a gigantic hemorrhoid on their ass, Be inconvenient until they cave. Be something they can't look away from. I guess that's where I'm at. Hey, Bread and Toast, how you doing? Also, fun fact about this Biden story. In the exchange, Bennett congratulates Biden on his speech and urges the president to keep pressing Netanyahu on growing humanitarian concerns in Gaza. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken and the Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg were also part of the brief conversation. Biden then responds using Netanyahu's nickname, saying, "I told him, Bibi, and don't repeat this, but you and I are going to have a come to Jesus meeting." An aide to the president standing nearby then speaks quietly into the president's ear, appearing to alert Biden that microphones remained on as he worked the room. Quote, "I'm on a hot mic here. Biden says after being alerted. Good. That's good. So part of me wonders if this is like some weird performance to like leak messaging out to the public, and I have no idea, or if it's genuinely a mistake, and then he's just trying to be like, he's trying to play it off like, oh, that's good, it's good that everyone heard that. You know, Dark Brandon, baby, is he goofing? Is he playing the long game? Who can tell? That's an extremely poor choice of words. Yeah, it is an extremely poor choice of words to talk about having a come to Jesus conversation with a Jewish man.